Welcome to Build Your Maverick Business, the podcast for underdog, outlier, and renegade entrepreneurs. Brought to you by Strange Creative Studio. If you dream of going off on your own and launching your rebel empire, but don't know where to start, you're in the right place. We'll teach you how to use mindset, branding, and practical advice to build a killer business and transform your world. And now, here's your host, founder of Strange, Alex Pitt.
Hello, my dears. Welcome back. To my non-UK listeners, guys, check on your British friends. We are not okay. There is an extreme heat wave running through this country right now, the likes of which has never been seen, the highest recorded temperatures that we've ever experienced. I've never ever lived through anything like this in my life, and I am a milk bottle. I am not built for this weather. So I've just been sat here sweating, miserable. My partner absolutely loves it. He is a lizard and he thinks this is great, and I'm just kind of like flailing around and groaning at how much I hate it. So British of me. But yes, let's hope we get back to a bit more normality soon, because while I enjoy working in a bikini, it's not really sustainable. Well, I don't know. Let's see. Let's see how the progression of this business goes. Might start working from the Maldives. Anyway, I've had the notes for this episode on my computer for a while. It's been sat there on my laptop, just waiting. And the reason I didn't talk to you about it yet is because I was sort of waiting for a bit of a trigger. I thought something's going to come up, like someone's going to say something shitty to me at some point, and I'll be like, yes, now is the time. Now, that did and didn't happen, because fortunately the universe has been very kind to me recently and no one said anything shitty to me in a while. So thank you. Thank you, stars, for aligning in that sense. No, I was looking through one of my networking groups. It's a Facebook group, and a woman posted a few screenshots of some unsolicited feedback that she had had from a student of hers. She was a coach. She's teaching people how to kind of come out of themselves and be more visible. She does a lot of videos. She does a lot of teaching. And this one other woman decided that what she was doing wasn't good, that it wasn't good enough. It wasn't suitable. She wasn't okay with it. She didn't like the style. She didn't like this. She didn't like that. And so rather than just going about her life, which is, by the way, what I recommend in this situation, I am an extreme empath, and the thought of taking time out of my day to tell someone that they've done something wrong is just baffling to me. Like, I don't understand why you do that. Why would you try and make someone feel like shit? But anyway, such is the reality of life, and this is going to happen. I was reading this post, looking through these screenshots, and I just felt this woman's pain. Like, she was really upset. She was putting this out into the group for a bit of support. And I mean, the comments were hilarious. Everyone just like, tell her to fuck off. Is she okay, hon? It was all very sweet. It was all very supportive. But it really got me thinking about this whole idea of how to deal with criticism. Now, I talk a lot about the fact that I was a graphic designer for a long time, first in-house in fashion brands, and then as a freelancer. Now, you do not get to do that for a living without growing a bit of a thick skin. The reason being that when you're a creative, there's this kind of mantra within the creative community that everyone's a creative. I don't look at the work that my accountant is doing and say, no, don't know about that. Oh, I don't like what you've done with these figures here. Because I just trust that he knows what he's doing. And it's figures, it's numbers, it's systems that I have a grasp of, but I don't understand in the way that he does. Now, when it comes to design, visuals are very subjective. So everyone has an opinion. So everyone is willing to tell you whether or not they think you've done a good job. And it can be crippling at times. It can be really painful. I actually used to work with a woman. She worked in marketing, but she used to be a graphic designer too. She studied it, she graduated, and she started out her career like that. And she had to quit because people were so shitty to her all the time, saying like, that's rubbish, that's crap, what have you done there? And she literally gave up. She was like, I can't deal with the criticism, this is too much. Now, I kind of struggled through it. And I've grown a bit of a thick skin when it comes to design, at least. And then when I became a founder, when I started my own business, Christ alive, it's a whole nother level. People really like to take time out of their day to tell you that you've done wrong. It is bizarre. There is a certain demographic who are very much worse for this, and we will not go into that because that is a whole other episode. But what I realised when I was reading through this post from this woman is that I've kind of accidentally, subconsciously built a bit of a system for dealing with this. I didn't do this on purpose. This is very, very organic, the way that this has come about. But in taking on a lot of advice from my peers, in dealing with it hands-on, and through doing a lot of self-coaching, I've worked out a bit of a hack for how you deal with criticism. So this is going to be a bit of a different podcast because I am going to do it in 2 parts. We're going to have part 1, part 2, and this week, part 1 is going to be essentially deciding when you do receive criticism, whether or not to listen, whether or not you're actually going to listen. Because it is totally up to you whether you want to take on board criticism. You don't have to pay attention to anything that anybody says outside of your business. You don't. Like, that's totally your prerogative. I think it's a very dangerous game to play, ignoring feedback from other people. But that's not to say that you should take on board everything that everybody says. That's also an extremely dangerous game to play. So what I want to teach you this week and next is my kind of subconscious system of how to filter out what people are saying to you about you when you get negative feedback, when you get criticism. Follow these steps. Treat it like a system and a process for your business. And when you do that, you can just remove any mental drama and sail through the bullshit. And you can really use criticism as an essential tool. You can dig out the gold and bury the rest of the shit back in the ground. That's essentially what I'm going to try and teach you this week. So here's how we do it. Actually, before I get into that, one side note, criticism, worth bearing in mind, has everything to do with the other person and very little to do with you. It's also inevitable, so don't be mad when it happens. Don't be pissed off. It's a good thing because it's basically free market research. You've just got to be smart with how you filter it. Okay, so first thing we need to determine is, are we going to pay attention to the person that's criticising you? So imagine that you've just had someone drop in your inbox, say everything that you're doing is shit, don't like what you've done here, don't like what you've done there, fix it, right? First thing we need to do, are we going to pay any attention? So first up, is this person in your target audience? Or do they have relevant experience to make them a source of knowledge or wisdom for you? Now, this is such a simple thing that gets overlooked, I think, because when someone criticises you, it is triggering. No one likes to be told that they've done something wrong. Like, you can do a load of inner child work around this, but, you know, no one likes to be told that they've done something that they shouldn't have done, or no one likes to be told that their work is flawed. It's just not nice. Now, really think to yourself, is this person in the pool of people that I am trying to speak to? Or do they have that experience that actually what they're saying could be helpful, right? So have a look at this person objectively and think, is what they're saying valuable for my business? Are they a useful data point for me? Now, I've had this happen so many times since I started Strange, where people just like, people that I know, people that I'm, you know, friendly with, sending messages to say, oh, you should change that, you should change that. And while I am friends with them, and while I do appreciate that what they're saying comes from a place of love, I also think, do you know what? You are very much in a different demographic. You are outside the kind of realm of who I'm trying to speak to. So thank you. I release this kind of thing. But then you also get, like, I've had the situation where old farts in suits have told me that I'm doing something wrong. And they are not a useful data point for me because they are not the kind of person that I'm selling to. They are not the kind of person that I'm trying to reach. So if anything, them telling me that I've done wrong is a good thing, because if they don't like it, then the chances are that the people I am actually trying to reach are going to. You see? So it's really important to take that very first step and think, are you the kind of person that's actually going to give me valuable feedback, or are you just venting because you don't like what I'm doing? And that's totally fine. In fact, I would encourage that kind of carry on, because if you're pissing some people off, the chances are you're inspiring other people, right? Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, did you ask them for feedback? So there is always going to be a situation where you do a bit of market research, you're asking your audience how they feel about a product or a service that you put out there. Maybe you're trying to get testimonials, maybe you're trying to improve what you're doing, maybe you've created a product and you just want to make sure that it's fit for purpose and that people like it. You are going to have to bite the bullet a little bit, send out those forms, gather that feedback. That is important. It's good to know that you're creating the right things for your audience. Now, if you didn't ask them for feedback, like this poor woman that I mentioned at the start of the episode, if you didn't, take whatever is said with a pinch of salt, okay? There are a lot of people in this world who walk around with their arse in the air thinking their opinion is gold dust, and you are privileged to be able to hear it. Now, I'm not saying that anyone who gets in contact with you out of the blue to tell you that something you've done isn't quite right is a narcissist who needs to be stopped. Some people really do care and want to help, but just be wary of anyone who takes the time out of their day to give you negative feedback out of nowhere. That says a lot more about them than it does about you and about your products and about your services. Now, the next thing, and this may be the most important one, and it does involve being a little bit vulnerable and getting out of your comfort zone. But does the thing that they're telling you you've done wrong, the thing that they're complaining about and criticising, if you were to take on board their feedback, would it solve a problem for you or elevate your business to the next level? Now, while receiving negative feedback is never nice, you might not like what that person has to say, they might be providing you with some really useful insights that will help you resolve a problem you've been facing. Now, this is a situation that I actually faced a while ago now. This is some years ago. As a way of making a bit of money on the side, I created a kind of mini course and I put a lot of work into it. I felt really passionately about it and I was very proud of it. And I put it out into the world, had a few students, and I think it was probably like the third or fourth person that worked through this sent me a scathing email. It was so dramatic. She was just cross, she was just not happy. And long story short, we exchanged a few emails and I said to her, do you know what? I'm going to give you your money back because you're very, very unhappy right now. At which point she was like, oh, thanks so much. Have a lovely weekend. She was totally fine. Now, it really stung to receive that email because I was at the time a quivering mess. I hadn't done all of this mindset work and it really, really hurt. In her email though, she listed all of the things that she was hoping to find in that course that weren't there. So what I did was add those things in, which took me about a week. It wasn't a great deal of work. And since then, the course has actually made thousands and I've never had another complaint. So while it was horrible and it stung and I gave her money back, she gave me some really interesting insights for free, by the way. So she gave me some really interesting insights that when I got over myself, when I took out the drama and I stopped crying in the corner and licking my wounds, actually really helped. And they made that product a lot better than it was before. So really think, does this solve a problem for me? And again, if it doesn't, if you're thinking, do you know what, I'm absolutely fine and I'm ticking along, and if I were to take on your feedback, then I don't think it would help me, in the bin it goes. And finally, is this about money? Now, money is one of those things, like I say, creativity is very subjective. People's attitude towards money is so personal. It's so subjective. It's like a fucking fingerprint, how people feel about money. Now, I have had clients who have paid a 5-figure invoice without a question the day that I send it. I have had clients argue and argue and argue over £200. It is mad, the range between people. And it doesn't just necessarily mean how much money they have in the bank. It really is people's attitude. Now, when we did some research for the Not Just a Pretty Logo program, we gave it to people for free. We did not ask them for feedback on the price, but we did ask for feedback on how they found the structure of the course, how helpful they found it, etc., etc. Now, across the board, we had between 7 and 10 out of 10 of how helpful people found this. They were like, yes, this is a fantastic program. It's really helped me to get to where I need to. The only real negative feedback that we had, apart from little things like there's a typo there, you need to make this, interactive, or teeny tiny little mistakes. The only negative feedback that we got was someone saying, this is really helpful, but it's too expensive. Now, we very pointedly didn't ask, do you think this is good value? Because first of all, that devalues the product straight away. If we're like, how much do you want to pay for this? But more importantly, the vast majority of the people that did it had absolutely no issue with how much it cost. I remember telling a peer of mine about that feedback, about the fact that the price of the program is too expensive. And she said to me, are you fucking mad? I would double that at least, right? Now, that's not to say that either of those people are right. And when it comes to money, there really is a lot of user testing that you can do. You need to kind of feel into it. But do you know what? Everyone has their own attitude. So if someone is criticizing you based on your pricing, just remember that everyone has a different attitude towards money. And if they're complaining about your pricing, just release. And of course, do some user testing, see if maybe your product isn't selling. Maybe you do need to bring the price down a little bit, but don't start there, right? And don't react if one person says to you, I think this is too expensive. It says so much more about them than it does about you. All right, my loves, that's it for part 1. Now, think about these questions. Think about whether or not you want to take their feedback as a golden nugget or whether it's going in the fuck it bucket. That is such an important first step. Now, next week, I will talk you through the steps that you need to take to deal with that criticism and what you're going to do about it. Have a wonderful week, my loves. Stay cool, and I will catch you here next week.
Got an idea for a maverick business of your own? Learn how to build a powerful brand that will get people obsessed with our online program, not just a pretty logo. You'll learn a simple step-by-step framework that will kickstart your killer brand and help you find your raving fan base. Find out more today at strangecreativestudio.com.